Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for being here. This is the April 2022 Klamath Film member meeting. We do this every month on the first Thursday from 6 to 8-ish p.m. Opportunity to network with local filmmakers and actors and film fans. And tonight our featured guest is going to be Tim Williams. Tim is the executive director of Oregon Film, and he has his hands kind of in a little bit of everything as far as film productions go in the state of Oregon. So we'll get to hear about some of the behind the scenes things that he does to help bring film productions to the area and support films that are taking place. He's also a filmmaker himself. We are coming to you from the Retro Room Records, which is out on Washburn Way. If you haven't been here before, it's an awesome vinyl record store and collectibles shop that's been around for about a year now here in Klamath. And I have a few things I want to run through, but first, let's give an opportunity to the Retro Room to actually explain what it is that they do. So the owner, Jimmy and Sarah Turner, it's actually Sarah's birthday today, so they're off having dinner, but we have Sevilla here. If you want to, there's actually a mic on the seat right in front of you there. You can grab. Oh, okay, if you just want to explain a little bit of what Retro Room is and what you do.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sevilla Avila. I'm one of the employees from Retro Room Records. Yeah, so we have a little shop over here right by Chicken Shack, if you guys know where that's at in Klamath Falls, Oregon. But yeah, we're just a little shop. We have vinyls, cassettes, CDs, 45. Sometimes we have 8 tracks, but basically this is just a nice little place to gather if you like music and stuff. We get people from all crowds, from people who like metal, punk rock, country, just kind of nice because it's like a little safe haven for all the people who love the old school music and stuff, and also newer stuff too. So yeah, we like to support locals, and we also host comedy shows at the Ross Raglan and stuff. I don't know if you guys heard.
I was going to bring that up next. There you go right there.
That's our next one coming up this month. But yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. So we're in the back room theater, and this space has been used for small concerts, and starting actually this weekend on Saturdays, the second Saturday of each month, although we may fudge that a little bit, I'm going to be hosting music trivia nights. So if you want to come out and do a trivia competition, the grand prize for whoever gets the most points is a $50 store credit. And the person who finishes last walks away with a polka album. So, come on out this Saturday at 6 if you want to do that. We'll do that every single month. And then, like Sevilla mentioned, Jimmy, the owner, is a former stand-up comic, and in December he started doing monthly comedy shows at the Ross Raglan. So the next one is a tribute to first responders with John DeResta and Stephen Michael Caseta. You might remember Stephen Michael Caseta. He's been in a bunch of TV shows and movies. Most prominently, he was on Breaking Bad. He was one of the police officers on that show. But he's been in a ton of things, very funny. So if you're in town, that's April 29th that's happening. So with that, thank you everyone for being here. We'll probably get a few other stragglers kind of come in, but we always start these things off with introductions. Most people here know me, but my name is Kurt Lidke. I'm the board chair of Klamath Film, former executive director. I'm also a filmmaker myself, a full-time videographer for Klamath Community College, commercial drone pilot, excuse me, and just a big film fan. So why don't we go around? Actually, for folks in the room, why don't you introduce yourselves first?
Hello, I am Jason Schrantz. I attended once last year and would like to sort of attend in more frequently. Yeah, just a big film fan. I'll be teaching film at the college. My specialty is in literature. That's what I study and teach. But you know, that love for narrative extends in a lot of different directions. So it's good to be here.
Well, thank you for coming down. And Bowen.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So hello again. My name is Bowen Browder, and I am a Klamath Film board member, but locally I am a also an admissions counselor for Oregon Institute of Technology. I am actually also an alum of Oregon Tech, so I'm very familiar with the area and with the school and with everything. And film storytelling and everything has always been a very interesting subject to me, something I've gotten more and more passionate about over the years, and I guess you could consider me an aspiring actor.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming out as always. I've seen some familiar faces. What's up, Jarrett? Good to see you again.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you back, Jared.
Nice to see you.
So
Thanks. Good to be seen.
Jarrett won for Best Northern Feature at last year's Klamath Independent Film Festival. Why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Jared Bryant. I live in Eugene, Oregon. And last year's festival was one of the best experiences my wife and I had on our little tour of festivals last year. And thank you, Kurt. It was well done. And and it seems like it's carrying on. You've got a good guest tonight, it seems, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Terrific. Well, thank you for joining us.
What's next, Jared? What are you working on?
Yeah. I just well, after the experience of the Klamath Film Festival, I actually optioned a screenplay to a producer in Hollywood that I hope gets made. Excited about that, but recently I wrote a horror film that's based in Klamath Falls. And,
that's a natural fit.
Yeah, our bad guy journeys from Klamath Falls up to Seattle, then back down to Klamath Falls.
Fantastic.
What's the theme of the one that you're sending in to Hollywood? What's the theme?
It's about luggage theft back in the 80s, early 80s. And you had this team of, they weren't gangsters, they were just luggage handlers, but they worked for the mafia. And they were protecting shipments of cocaine from a Colombian cartel. So the Colombian cartel would ship it into Florida, and the mafia would protect our luggage handlers as they protected the shipment that would land in Florida and either spread out on the East Coast or fly on to its next destination. And they were, true story, based on a true story, and quite a few of them died, and a few of them lived, and that's where the story derives.
Well, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's a good story.
And thank you for using Klamath Falls. So we've actually had several films or projects in the works where filmmakers like yourself came to our film festival and had such a good time. They said, hey, we need to make something down here, or we should come back and see if we can collaborate on something. Or they meet someone here and they're like, hey, let's work on our next project, the next project.
Yeah.
So that we want it
that.
to be a great networking opportunity. So I'm
Hey, Mike.
so glad to hear that you had a good time.
Thanks.
I played a Guatemalan explosives expert, former Muslim or terrorist turned Muslim, and was peace loving then. in the movie Sail Away, Escape Plan.
Yeah.
If you're doing any casting, I'd like to know about it.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Well, everybody know.
But while we're on that topic, Wayne, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. Sorry I'm late. I spent about 20 minutes trying to log on to this darn thing. Unfortunately, I only use the laptop to do Zoom meetings, but and so I have download after download after download. But nonetheless, I'm an actor, live in Klamath Falls, and so I have to travel. Unfortunately, more than often than not, to acting gigs.
Boy, our signal's getting bad. Our signal's getting.
Joyce, you're talking over Wayne there.
I'm sorry.
Was asked the other day, a neighbor of mine, about the number of gigs I've been in. I only started about 13 years or so ago, and been in about 40 plays, shorts, commercials, feature films, what have you. but played a broad range of characters in that little bit of time. Associated now that COVID's finally, the restrictions are lifting, associated with a number of projects this year that I'm very excited about, and one that I'm hoping to be associated with that I'm very excited about. I've also, besides acting, naturally as an actor in Clemity Flats, produced and directed and lighting and sound and makeup and done about every other darn thing. But just love filmmaking. Again, a fair bit of experience in theater, but there's something about being in front of the camera that's highly addicting that I can't quite get away from. So that said, I'll pass on the mic to whomever.
Cool. Court, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Court Tannick. I'm the current executive director of Klamath Film. I too live here in Klamath Falls. I do a lot of the administrative stuff. I'm mostly the chief salesman and bottle washer these days.
Take out the garbage at the end of the night, right?
Traveling quite a bit, trying to sell Klamath Falls to the film community to come here to shoot, and to film companies to come here and sponsor things like our film festival. So that takes up an awful lot of my time. At the moment, I too have a background in film. At the moment, I'm doing more on the sound side. I just came back from Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, working on a score project for a film. There's a series of fantasy novels called Jade City. And the first book is going to be turned into a film, and we're working on the framework for how the music will go in that. So that's largely the story, and if you're a member of Klamath Film, I'm here to solve all your problems.
All right, Court.
I've got a wart over here. I can't seem to get rid of. Can you take care of that?
Oh, hey, Court. What was the Jade series target audience? Is that a teen or a young adult or adult series?
Yeah, it's kind of young adult, but it's the way I see the way they're developing the script is it's going to be more of a general audience, and probably push the more horror than fantastic elements of it. But for me, it's a chance to work with Breck Eisner, who's a director I wanted to work with.
Fantastic.
Congratulations. Wish you the best. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
And while we're at it, John, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm kind of a new member here. Only been here about a year. I'm kind of more on the music side, coming towards film rather than the other way around. So, everybody's like, well, what are you working on? Well, I'm hoping to make like a more of a cyberpunk movie eventually. Of course, considering the effects and everything else, it's not some small project or easy project. So, and sadly, I'm in the middle of dealing with my mom's estate, but at least I finally found the family trust. So things are moving ahead here. But I got to deal with stuff here before I can kind of get back to projects I want to do. And this is one of them, but I try to keep ideas. Every time I get ideas, I try to write them down so I don't lose them. That's one thing I notice is that it's like always carry a 3x5 or something because, ideas come in a flash and they're gone just as quickly. and I imagine Court can attest to this. It's like sometimes you get a music idea for a song, and you're like, well, when I get home, I'll write it down. And then when you get home, you can't remember jack. It's over. The moment's over. So.
No, that never happens to me.
Yeah, in the music field, I'm like, I wish I could believe that. No, we all victim to that kind of stuff. But
a lot of the musicians that I worked with when I was in Hollywood would call themselves and sing to their voicemail.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You gotta, like those old handheld recorders with the mini cassettes. I'm like, I get so tempted to just keep one because it's so hard to get your phone into record mode or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with those things, you just press the button and you're going. So sometimes analog ain't so bad, but it's just, I know what you're saying. If you don't sing it, you'd lose it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. An actor living in Klamath Falls. I was asked the other day, if you're so good, why are you living in Klamath Falls? Well, trying to get my parents' estate settled, and
are you doing that too?
Yeah.
Wow. Welcome to the club. I guess I'm welcome to the club.
Yeah, not a fun club.
No, it's not.
No.
Joyce, why don't you introduce yourself? Is Howard there too?
Yes, we're both here. I'm Joyce Dickens. My husband is Howard Stapleton. We're both independent photographers, and he asked me to introduce him as well. So we're here in Klamath Falls. I am the current secretary of Klamath Film. We are both members of the Klamath Art Association. We both have work currently there, and I have work right now at Ross Raglan Theater, keeping very busy, and really like the way that Klamath Film is going this year. I'm excited about the possibility of trending toward actually doing films. And yeah, that's something to look forward to in the future. And it's nice to see Jared here. We enjoyed meeting you and your wife and son last year, and taking your pictures at the film festival. It was a very great time. And we're actually looking forward to shooting the Earth Day Festival coming up. So hopefully we'll see you all there.
Terrific. And we have multiple people from Eugene joining us, which is wonderful. The reason why is a week or two ago, I went back home for a weekend, and Mike down there coordinated a really cool short film showcase. I want some of those filmmakers to submit their films to our festival, Mike, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Mike Schwab. I live in Eugene, and I like to write, direct movies, act. And yeah, friends with Jared. Nice to see you there. Kurt, it was great to have you up in Eugene. That was a lot of fun, that's for sure. And I've been having a good time trying to help things out around here too. We've got a lot of potential here in Eugene to build a filmmaking community, and wanted to help out. And it's great to organize showcases, and I'm working on a festival. I'm trying to organize a comedy film festival. It's hard to get people to submit. I'm finding that out, but I'm doing some stuff, and I'm talking to people and on social media and whatnot. But the guy who owns the theater, he definitely wants festivals, and we have this great opportunity to do it. And I love comedy, and so I was like, let's do this comedy film festival, and things are moving in the right direction, that's for sure.
Yeah, I really love the work that your group is doing. Hopefully we're a little bit of an inspiration on that to coordinate filmmakers in the area and see a lot of collaboration on projects. That's really wonderful to see, and I hope to see more of it coming out of the Eugene area. I'm of course biased because I grew up in Eugene. So, and also Mike came down to our film festival as well last year, even though he didn't have a film project in the festival, he still made the trip down. So thank you very much for doing that, Mike.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm curious, Mike. I met a young man yesterday. Well, I've known him for some time. Found out his part of his name was Heinz, like ketchup. Yours is Schwab. That seems familiar. Is there a family connection?
No.
Well, apparently
It's
so.
funny-
Your
it's
mom and
funny-
dad.
it's funny mention it. Yeah, it's funny you mention that. I was at Les Schwab yesterday, and I was making a joke about getting the Schwab discount, and them not being okay with that. Yeah, that's coincidence. No, yeah, no Charles or Les.
Yeah, that's too bad. If only we could be so lucky, right?
Yeah, I'd love a discount from Charles more so than
Yeah.
less for Charles.
Well, Mike, there's your next film.
Yeah, I gotta work that in.
And then Benjamin, we have also another Eugene filmmaker. Hello, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, nice to meet you. I'm Benjamin. I'm up in Eugene. I got started in film, also coming from stand-up, and so I was kind of used to doing things more on my own, writing my own material, and then I got into theater production, and one of my biggest shows ran in the Philadelphia Fringe Festival, and it was there was live actors, and then there was also animated scenes that I had created going on in the background, so it gave it kind of like a cartoony feel to the production. And so it would switch between like live scenes and then pre-recorded animation. From there, I was more interested in putting the actors in the animated world, so I got into green screen production and those types of things. And from there, I just kind of like, I don't know, I always liked making people laugh. I was doing stand-up for a long time, and so I kind of just decided to dive into film. But I've pretty much been like learning the mechanics from the purpose of like, I like to make things that make people laugh. So like from there, we'll figure out sound, we'll figure out lighting, like we'll figure out these things that happen in the meantime. And yeah, I don't know, other than that, like, so I act when I get a chance. That's one of my favorite things. I like to be on sets, I'm happy holding a boom mic as I am being in front of the camera. Like, I just like being on film sets and these things. So I pretty much do anything in that regard. Lately, I've been working a lot more on story structure and understanding that, which I think is like, it's helped out a lot with acting. And I've also been able to write and create a few things that are more narrative in structure than I'm used to.
Very cool. Hey, Ben, if you put something together or want to put something together, give me a holler. I ad-lib all day at work. And, as an actor, love to play in front of the camera. So, yeah, I'd like to collaborate.
Yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like fun.
Cool.
That's what these meetings are all about, is learning and collaboration. So that's wonderful to hear. Oh, I'm sorry, Court, I cut you off there.
No, I was just saying Lori just joined us, so when I get her in the mix.
Perfect timing, Lori. We were just wrapping up introductions. So as long as you're here, if you can hear us, please introduce yourself.
I'm Lori. I'm a Klamath Film member for probably about 5 years now. I was on the board for a couple of years. I also do volunteering with Klamath Film, as well as have helped with backstage stuff at the Ross Raglan Theater, and did some spotlighting there. But I had a short film in the 2020 KIF, The Puzzle. Puzzle might be my subgenre, I guess, if I'm going to have one. I've made a couple, but we'll see if I submit a film to KIF this year or not. But yeah, I like creative endeavors. That's a short little thing about me.
Welcome back, Lori. Haven't seen you since what? Yesterday at work, I think.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I have a few announcements and things to go over, and then Tim, our featured guest tonight, should be joining us. I don't know, sometime within the next half hour or so. I told him anytime between 6:30 and 7. So we'll see. But before I delve into things, does anyone have any sort of announcements or projects they've been working on that they want to talk about, or anything in general that comes to mind that they want to bring up?
Hey, I got a few things that I need to throw out to the membership.
Absolutely.
Before we get rolling. First off, Salesforce up in Portland's looking for a film director right now, and it's remote, so you don't have to move from wherever you are to do this gig. I'm I'm going to send that out in an email blast after the meeting tonight with the details in case
Thank you.
anybody is interested in that position.
Thank you.
Second thing, I've been working on a clandestine project with Wayne, which is going to go on our YouTube channel. And it's basically just going to be a show where Wayne has discussions and interviews with people working in the business, much as we do with our guest speakers here, except, you know, it'll be on YouTube and it'll be a little more frequent. And we're going to do the pilot next week. And so that first episode should go up about the last week of May.
You got a link to your YouTube channel or something you could throw us at some point?
Just search Klamath Film in YouTube.
Oh, you're going to have it off of the Klamath Film site? Okay.
Yeah, well, you'll be able to click through to it.
Okay.
And so that's that. The third thing is Klamath Film's first annual Earth Day Film Night is coming this month on Thursday, the 21st at 7 p.m. at the Fable Museum, where we'll be screening 4 environmental films about our region. And everybody's invited to come. It's going to be a good time to be had by all. There's going to be a raffle. There will be refreshments. And you'll probably learn a few things. So I definitely hope everybody that can make it will make it to that.
And it's $10 entry or $5 if you're a Klamath Film member.
Right.
Okay, so I'll run through things pretty quick here. Thank you. Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to bring up before we kind of get rolling with some stuff?
I'm attached to a number of projects, but not ready to announce anything yet. So
Okay.
I'll say more when we're released.
Well, Bowen, you got some good news recently with Nick's film, right? Like you got cast, so
Yeah. I guess that's just kind of a little nice announcement on my end. This I guess not the biggest surprise since a large member of Klamath Film, or at least the board, they got casted as well. But I recently just got casted.
What? Who?
But recently I got casted in my very first film project, which is being produced by Nick Alexander Films. So it's nice. This is actually a question that I was saving to ask you at some point, Wayne, is when's the best time to like announce a project that you're a part of?
I don't know. I would talk to Nick about that.
Okay. Because I was just curious because like, at least around my office.
I was attached to a bunch of projects in 2020, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and like 6 of the 7 projects just went away. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I was just curious and wanted to do that because like in my office, I had to tell people that I'm canceling like a big on-campus event that we're doing that day, and they're just like, "Oh, why is it canceled?" And I haven't told anyone yet, so I'm just figuring out when's the best time to tell.
No. Well, if it's work related, you might want to tell them sooner than later.
I explained to my higher ups that for at least like my director of admissions and my assistant director, they already know the deal. It's more just a matter of me telling the rest of like the student workers and everyone else involved.
I just scheduled that time off the shooting dates. I didn't necessarily, well, I told a couple people, but it's not like I made a major announcement. Oh, I got to take time off because I'm shooting another movie, or a feature film or whatever.
I think
what's the premise of the film? I mean, what's your role or what,
It is a murder mystery that I believe is being played with the like a campy comedy angle.
Kind of like the movie Clue, I think. I mean, that's the way I took it, but I could be wrong, and they'll find out. And when they show up, and the director goes, "No, do it this way."
Based off the script and like how everything plays out, I'm guessing there's at least some like lighthearted moments, or at least moments that the audience is meant to laugh at, not so much us as the cast.
And then I brought some stuff to it that they weren't expecting, so that's good.
Now, did you say this is destined for Netflix?
No, it's a short.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, that's not a feature. I've been in
Okay.
the features since, although it's a longer short than some that I've been in.
But yeah, it's my very first film project, so I'm really excited to get started and really build up my resume.
And Nick, has got quite some talent as a commercial producer. So I'm hopeful that this endeavor goes somewhere and leads to something in the future.
Of course.
Cool. And anyone else? Okay.
Hey, can I ask all you guys who make films a question? Which I'm really curious about. I do a lot of post and mastering here, in a setup I have in my home. I'm expanding it out, and I'm bringing in actually Dolby Atmos right now. And that'll be up and running by June. If you're for those of you out there who are making independent films, stuff like that, is that an interest that you would have, since that's become sort of the de facto theater standard now for sound?
I'm not really familiar with Dolby Atmos.
Well, Dolby Atmos, to be brief, Dolby Atmos is just basically a 3D immersive sound system and that's basically what's become the standard in most movie theaters now, and that's how everything gets mixed and mastered. And now Dolby's pushing it into music in general. So like new albums that are coming out, like the new Billie Eilish thing and all of those things, they'll do a stereo master, and they'll do a Dolby Atmos master. The stereo master is 2 channels. The Dolby, is typically basically 12. It's 7 surround, 1 low frequency, and 4 overhead. So it's actually completely immersive. Apple is now supporting Dolby Atmos. So if you have, Apple's AirPods, it's binaural, and it actually mixes down all that Dolby Atmos. And as you turn your head, stuff actually moves around in it.
So that's more meant for a theatrical release, rather.
It came out of movies.
YouTube.
Yeah, it came out of movies to become very standard in movies, and now they're pushing it to music. What I was looking at was, I was doing Atmos for some of my own projects, but I started looking and said, well, it turns out there is not an Atmos house between Portland and San Francisco. So I was like, well, with all the independent filmmakers in this region, maybe they'd want to, master their stuff in Dolby Atmos to go out to theaters. So I'm curious whether that's something you guys are all independent filmmakers, whether that's something you'd be interested in or not. I mean, I'm going to have it anyway because some of my stuff requires it.
Well, I can say
I would recommend that you join Southern Oregon Filmmakers on YouTube or
on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
If you're not already there, and just to kind of get the word out, there are some people there that might be able to use this.
I personally have never mixed anything beyond 5.1, so I'm not really one to speak on it, but I'm not sure. Jared, have you ever worked in anything beyond 5.1?
No, never worked anything on 5.1. But I mean, audio, as we know, is so critical to a film, and that's what you're doing is more post. I think that's important, but I also think it's important for us to keep stressing the importance of using the right mics in the right situation,
right?
And so that you'll have something to work with. Because Atmos is good, but it's not that good.
I mean, it's not going to solve all your problems if you have a track. you know, or anything like that. It's just adding some, you know, capability. And
Right.
I realized, like I said, you know, I had some actual need for it, and you know, that's why I'm spending the money. But you know, but then I looked around and I was like, well, you know, nobody else has got that. Yeah, maybe some people was going to use it. You know,
Well,
just
I
filmmakers all day.
It's done.
I think it's a good thing to have,
Mhm.
but I mean, it's good that people know about it as an option, because I think, like they're saying, it's something that you would have to plan for ahead.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, like those old movies, like this is made for IMAX or this is that, you know, those are of course visual things, but it's the same thing here. You know, I think you would have to do, like Jared said, you're going to have to really plan for it to have like the mics and the positioning in order to take full advantage of it. I think most
Yeah,
people maybe aren't thinking about that stepping in, and they don't have enough channels that they to hand you. So
yeah,
you'd have to,
that's part of your production design, you know,
yeah,
beginning of saying, well, okay, I want to use immersive sound in some kind of way, you know, in this that's, you know, really, really
but
useful.
but
You
I
know,
think it's good you're
not
telling us.
fantastic things, you know, in Atmos mixes, you know. So,
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, it's like let's take this movie to a Matrix level. You
Right.
know, that's very cool.
yeah, I just found it really intriguing when I thought about it, because I was like, well, here, you don't have any big studios, you know, everybody's doing independent filmmaking. And I was like, wow, what it would, you know, normally that's a tool that you'd find if I was in LA. It's not a tool that you would find here.
Calamity Flats. Yeah.
So I was like, hey, that might be, you know, some useful creative, you know.
I
Well,
would be.
Mike Schwab is building a studio up here in Eugene for us with a stage and everything. Sound stage, right, Mike?
No.
No.
No,
what-
Rick Gates is the guy who talked to you about that. Rick Gates actually is making progress on opening up a film studio in Eugene. So,
I would be really curious to see what sort of microphone setup you need in order to get that kind of surround sound recording from a take. Like how many, to get that fully immersive surround sound, how many microphones do they need to have set up around actors or a shot?
Well, I've been in some post sessions with Atmos, and basically, a lot of what they're doing, I mean, largely dialogue recording doesn't change.
It's wireless mics or
Yeah, because dialogue is still largely getting spread across 3 channels and mostly center. But it's all the other stuff. It's atmosphere stuff, street things, room ambiance, all of that stuff. That you're catching, and then you're doing, and then on occasion you're doing motion audio. So, planes flying by, this thing's happening, that thing's happening, and it's not the big stuff that you'd expect. It's the little subtle things. People are walking by, or this thing is happening, or that thing is happening, that sends you cues that this is real.
Right.
So yeah, it can be really delicate and subtle. But it's now from the post mix standpoint, it's huge, because as I recall, I think you have you still have 32 tracks, was called the bed, which is just what you were doing when you were doing stereo. And then everything else is all these, sound objects that you can put in any place and time and all that. And so you wind up with about 96 tracks.
Ooh. Not 32, 96.
As a maximum. But you can literally kind of put things anywhere within that 3D space that the listener is listening to. And so it kind of opens up being able to do a lot of interesting things. And some of the things I'm playing with my partners, just, we kind of got to that point where it was, we were like, yeah, this is the way we want to go. So
Once again, I'm outdated. I've only done, I guess, 32 tracks on a soundboard out of 96. It's like, I don't have enough fingers.
Well, it sounds like a YouTube dive for a while to kind of get our heads wrapped around it, to see what you would need while you're actually filming versus how much of it is done in post.
Yeah,
It seems like a lot of the positioning is stuff that you might do in post. So I don't know where to draw the line. I have to research
and I'm
it
not talking
more.
about production at all. I mean, because I'm doing post here, so
Right.
that's my thing.
This is something we should definitely bring up to Tim to find out if he knows of anyone in Oregon doing it.
Can I jump in real quick? Jarrett, I see a picture of what I believe to be the Golden Gate Bridge. I missed the beginning of the show. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Are you in San Francisco or?
Oh, that's green screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very nice though. It's a very nice touch.
Is that the Golden Gate Bridge? Am I
yeah.
right on that?
But it's green screen.
Okay.
Image.
Okay, so our last Klamath Film event was a screening of all of the Oscar short films that we do every single year. We did this a week before the Oscars. So for those of you who were there, the winners were The Long Goodbye in the live action category and The Windshield Wiper in the animation category. And I don't think there was anything else of significance that happened at the Oscars outside of that. So we can just move right along from there.
Guys, is there a new G.I. Jane coming out?
I have not heard if there is actually.
I will slap you up.
Oh boy.
But there was something on IMDb about it, but I don't know if that's just trolling after the fact or what. Then, as Court mentioned, we are going to start doing, hopefully this becomes an annual thing, an Earth Day film night where we're showing environmental films at Fable Museum on April 21st here in Klamath. We have one film that we actually showed at last year's KIF that's going to be in that as well. We have a couple of crew calls. So Nick Alexander, the film that actually Wayne and Bowen are in.
I haven't announced that personally.
Oh, okay. Nick is looking for a makeup artist. So if you know of someone that could possibly do that, they'll be filming the 7th, the 15th, the 21st, and the 22nd. So there is Nick's info, or just look up Nick Alexander Films because he could definitely use some help on that end.
And I can do my own makeup. Ugly is ugly, no matter how much you put on it.
Mhm.
And then Court, you want to explain the Veterans Enrichment one as well?
Yeah. For as part of our upcoming Memorial Day show, the end of May, I'm shooting a short film about the Veterans Enrichment Center here in Klamath Falls, who does a lot to house homeless veterans. And I'm looking for some volunteer crew to help me with that shoot on the first week of May.
I would be interested. I think you actually mentioned May 1st, which is my birthday. And don't make that a public announcement. Too late. It's recorded. But anyhow, I would be interested as a veteran in participating in that.
Yeah. The fascinating thing about this so far is the VEC is really happy to cooperate and really wants to do this. It gives them a much higher visibility in the region and what they do. And they have a big event, it's called a Stand Down, that's coming in June, so people would find out about it and all this stuff. But not a single member of the board of directors, of management, or the founders want to be seen on screen. So my problem was how to shoot this documentary without all the people who do this.
Well, we'll get them paper bags with the eyes,
Yeah.
Do the comic thing, yeah.
Or you could do the whole witness protection thing where they're all blacked out and their voices are like robotic.
It's all over the shoulder. Yeah.
Use puppets.
Yeah, exactly.
sock puppets. We could talk to Jesse Blanchard.
I mean, we have a puppet guy coming down for Frank
Yeah.
and Zed. He could show up.
Yeah. Talk to Jesse about this.
Well, just dig in the garbage and make some characters.
Yeah. I'm sure we can track down some Huggies boxes that he can pick up and turn into puppets for you, Court.
Court, I have a quick question. Did you say Brett Eisner earlier?
Brett Eisner, yeah.
Okay, so he's going to direct a film?
Well, his company owns the project, and so they're pushing it right now, and and they're basically putting a pitch demo together and shooting a little stuff for studios to do that, and my partnership with 3 other composers, we're providing some music structure for that.
Okay. So did you say Breck or Brett?
Breck.
Okay, there's a Brett Eisner, a director.
Like Schwab, no, not everybody's
Well,
related.
this is Breck Eisner, the director. He's his dad used to run Disney.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Breck. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Breck's real name is Breckenridge. So Breck.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's that.
And there was one other call, but it's kind of last minute. We did send something out about it. I haven't talked with Denise to know if she filled it, but if anyone is available for a photo and video shoot down in Oakdale, California tomorrow, they're road tripping down there for a 2-day shoot of rodeo action. That is a paid gig. So if anyone needs a last minute gig for the next couple of days with transportation, hotels, and getting paid for your time, there's Denise's contact information on our screen.
Is that is that an email blast?
Yeah, we sent that out a couple days ago to all of our members.
What kind of gig is it?
Because I could call in sick.
It's a photo gig. So Denise is doing.
Oh, that's modeling.
She does a lot of like live streaming and some TV stuff. She's based out of Medford and got hired on to do like video and photos for a rodeo that's happening down in Oakdale. And she needs multiple people on the crew.
I could get booked off of a camera.
So I don't know if she's filled it all already, but the plan was to drive down tomorrow. So jot down that email address or check your email when, because you should be getting all of the emails that we send out. So hopefully you saw that. So we also have a couple of events coming up here, and I did want to mention we have a Comic-Con happening here in Klamath. I'm organizing it over at KCC. We haven't had one in a couple of years because of COVID, but very excited about this. And we're going to have some filmmakers come down and join us. Jesse Blanchard, who's based in Portland, and we'll do a screening of Frank and Zed, his film, on Saturday, May 14th at the Oregon Tech Auditorium. But he's going to do a puppetry workshop at Comic-Con. We also have Taylor Morden coming down, who's lives in Eugene. He actually just started E! Online, went public with it yesterday. He's working on his next documentary, is all about Build-A-Bear. So if you love Build-A-Bear and malls, he's working on a documentary about that right now. But he has a film. He made the last Blockbuster documentary that was all over Netflix. And before that, the 2019 Klamath Film Festival, we premiered his documentary, Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s, which we will be showing here in this room at Retro Room Records on Thursday, May 12th. Taylor's going to come down, join us. We'll watch his film. Then he's going to hang around for Comic-Con the next day. We also have Peter Tirius joining us, who is an animator and author. He's worked with Pixar and LucasArts, and he has an anime-based book series called Mecha Samurai that he's written. And my buddy Patrick is going to be joining us. Patrick, Casey, and Josh Miller, who are the screenwriters of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. So I'm going to go check out Sonic 2 tomorrow to see Patrick and Josh's handiwork. So Patrick and Josh will be joining us from LA for our Comic-Con on Friday the 13th, May 13th at KCC. So that should be super fun. We're hoping for a huge crowd for it. And with that, normally with these meetings, we try to show a short film project that someone has been working on, but no one sent me anything this month. So I pulled one of the videos
Oh, I could have.
yeah. So I pulled one of the videos that I recently made for KCC. It's only a minute long, but so you can get a sense of some of the work that I'm doing. We recently had a student orientation event. And so here's the type of film work that I'm doing the majority of the time. So this was a little 1 minute long video that I made for KCC.
We have a lot of stuff that we want to talk to you about, show you some resources, something to be making you successful as you begin at KCC.
We are thrilled that you were here with us today. We're excited to talk to you about getting ready to start classes in the spring term.
We've already been doing stuff. We're here. We're excited. We're going to give you a lot of information. We're going to give you a lot of resources, but we can't read your mind on what you need, right? So you have to communicate with us. We're here because of you. They're here because they want to help you. They're here because they want to make sure you're successful.
So yeah, that's the type of stuff that I'm doing during my days is a lot of short little promo things for Klamath Community College. Don't get to work on my own projects very much, but I can give you a sense of some of the film production that I'm doing down here. You're welcome to say that's terrible, Kurt. It sucks. Why are you paid for this? But if anyone has any feedback on it, you know, welcome to speak up.
It's better than what I could do.
My audio didn't work well.
Oh, it didn't, because I'm sorry if you couldn't hear anything. Ecamm Live is the live streaming software I use, and they just came out with a virtual microphone out. But I think it's still in beta.
Yeah, the sound kind of went, you know, it came and went.
Oh,
you know.
crap. I'm sorry. So I think it's still in beta. They're still tweaking it. So I apologize for that. But those of you who are here, you could hear it.
It's your fault that program didn't work.
Stop. Be nice, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne, be nice. Well, you know, what can I say? Gee, Kurt, that was awful, and I can't
I guess the editing was good. It's just that I couldn't hear it well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, you had some nice, you know, the little wipes coming in and showing stuff. I thought it kept everything moving. It was, I mean, it's visually looked nice.
Mm-hmm. So the new thing that I'm working on, KCC has a mascot, but we haven't really been using it because we didn't have a student to be the mascot for over a year.
It?
And it's Baxter the Badger. And we just lined up a student to be Baxter. So we've been filming a bunch. In fact, up until about 5 o'clock today, I was filming with Baxter the Badger all over campus. We just launched a TikTok channel a couple of weeks ago. We already have 300 followers on it, so we're doing great there. And we're posting a lot of exclusive Baxter content on there. So if you want to see
Baxter the Badger, I saw a girl wearing a beaver shirt the other day, and I'm like, oh, I'm not even touching it.
All right.
So if you want to check out Baxter the Badger doing crazy antics all over the KCC campus, I've been filming a lot of that, and we'll have a ton of TikTok exclusive videos coming out on our Klamath CC TikTok channel. That's where a lot of my focus has been. Oh, perfect timing.
Hey,
Tim is joining us.
Hey,
Tim, hello, sir.
Hello.
Your timing is impeccable. We just finished going through some of our announcements and whatnot. I was just getting to the intro of you.
Oh, that's very exciting. I see you have the little card up. Where are you sitting? It's a sort of interesting screening room. Is that at the community college?
No. So about a year ago, a family moved here and opened up a record store in town. And so we have this amazing vinyl record shop. This is a really cool place to hang out. They built a theater in the back. It's
Vinyl
Retro Room
Records.
Records, and they've had some concerts here. I'll start hosting music trivia here once a month, starting this weekend, and they also do comedy shows once a month at the Ragland. So it's a really cool new business. They sponsored
Yeah,
our
it looks
film festival
awesome.
last year, so we're glad to have them here, and they let us use the space.
Excellent.
Quick question. I have an estate to settle that actually has a bunch of vinyl records. Are they interested in
Yes,
possibly
Jimmy
buying?
buys. Yeah, so bring them down, and Jimmy would be happy to go through them.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
open from 12 to 6. Well, Tim, hey, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad I can stop harassing you about being a guest, because I've been bugging you for like 6 months now. Can you come on these meetings?
It's always been bad timing. I'm so sorry, but thanks for being persistent and for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So for the filmmakers on the call, Tim should be no stranger to you, but let's go through a little bit of what you do and what Oregon Film is. So real quick, there's the logo right next to Klamath Film's logo. This is for the end credits of The Private Dance, which was shot here last summer. And anything that's shot in Oregon, chances are you're going to see that red and yellow logo on the back end, because Tim and his organization, it has his fingers in a little bit of everything film wise that happens statewide. Among the efforts is the Oregon Film Trail, which last year, February of last year, we were lucky enough to get a marker on the film trail. It recognizes the film Phoenix, Oregon. It's right outside the Daily Bagel downtown, just a block away from the Ross Raglan. Thank you, Tim, for your help in making that possible. We're very honored to be a part of the Oregon Film Trail. And why don't you delve into, because I know you're also a filmmaker too. Why don't you give us a background on kind of your what you've done in the industry and how you ended up with Oregon Film?
Oh, I never claimed to be a filmmaker. So I've always been a filmmaker's helper, as they say. But yes, and thank you for all the film marker help. I think that was a huge thing that you did on your own, and we just sort of supported your efforts. So I appreciate that. I think it's really that we now have 33 signs up on the film trail. And happy that Klamath is one of them, but we go all the way out to the Wallowas and down to Baker and over to Bend and up into on the Oregon coast. So if anybody's ever looking for something to do that takes you around the state, that's one thing to do. And Mike, we're actually looking at 2 in Eugene pretty soon. Just FYI, they're supposed to go up before the games, so we hope we will see. Anyway, I was I guess I started out as a set PA, production assistant in New York in the late 80s, and then moved to London and actually did theater in London for a long time, and then came back to New York to help start an independent finance and production company called Green Street Films in New York. And I was there for about 8 years running production for them. We did somewhere between 20 and 30 movies at that time. I moved to LA to open up their LA office and ran that for a while until we got hit by an economic downturn and lost some of our investors, and the company actually folded into a company that's now called Sidney Kimmel Entertainment. I left and came up here. I worked a little bit for Fox Searchlight for a while before I came up here, and also a bond company called Film Finances before I came up here. So all told, I was sort of producing movies for about 25 years, but I was working with a small independent finance and sales company, and then sort of worked a little bit for studios before I came and took this job about 7.5 years ago. And so Oregon Film, as you may or may not know, we're basically a 4-person economic development office housed in both the governor's office and Business Oregon. We have a small incentive fund that helps us attract and retain projects to be here. And those projects include films, series, interactive games, AR, VR, animation, commercials, things like that. We also have a small regional fund that helps us get a little bit more money to those projects that aren't shooting in Portland, that are shooting elsewhere. And that's actually helped a lot to move some projects around the state and actually get them to be based in other places. We had a big Sony project that was down in Curry and Coos County for a little while. We had one that was just up in Enterprise for a week, and we got one that's looking at Corvallis right now. So it's doing a good job of getting things moving out and about. We did pretty good work during the pandemic. The movie business came back pretty strong, and I know a lot of you on this call were also making movies during the pandemic and shorts and things, and you know how hard it was. And then it got very quiet late last year, and so we have a pilot here now and a couple smaller movies here now, but it's not as busy as it should be. So it's a very unpredictable terrain right now in the sort of economic development world of filmmaking. And I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you that it's not what it was, but it's different, and that's good and bad in equal measure in terms of how you make movies, where the movies are seen, and who's seeing movies, and also who's helping to pay for those movies, either upfront or in the ticket sales thing. So we kind of look at all that stuff. In addition, we also run a small 501c3, a nonprofit called the Oregon Made Creative Foundation. That not only does the film trail that I was talking about earlier, but it also does grants and workforce development. We have a program called Pathways that helps train new people from marginalized communities to get paid positions on set. So we run that through there as well. We partner with the local unions, SAG-AFTRA, IATSE, DGA, as well as some local organizations that do training and outreach and education. So I think that's kind of all of it in a nutshell, unless I skipped something that maybe you know about, Kurt, that I didn't touch upon, or whether I went too fast over something and anybody has any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, I would just mention that you have been a very gracious sponsor of the Klamath Independent Film Festival for many years, and we sincerely appreciate your support with our little festival down here and trying to support Oregon film as much as possible with what we do. So thank you for continuing to help us put on KIF year after year.
Well, you and I've talked about this a lot, Kurt, these festivals, and I tried it before the pandemic, I was going to all of them in person, and I'll start doing that again for sure. But they become very key to our work in many ways. Number one, it shows filmmakers from around the world, the region that you're in. Number two, it gives us a point of contact when filmmakers want to talk to somebody about what it means to shoot in that area and can talk the same language and do the same thing. And number three, it gives us direct connection to the local community that are doing this work, in all levels. And we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for, you guys, Ben Film, Ashland Film Festival, McMinnville Short Film Festival, Eugene International Film Festival, all those things that are going on. And there's Churchill out in Baker is doing some of this. So I find those things to be really valuable. I personally enjoy them, which is why I do it, but I actually find them very valuable to our work because it gives us feedback in a way that we would not get any other way. And it also gives us creative feedback rather than just going down and talking about economic development or going down and talking to the chambers of commerce, which, we do, but it's a very different conversation than when you're at a film festival.
So these meetings, because I know, Tim, you've attended some of them before, are very casual and just kind of open Q&A. But before you joined, we got on an interesting topic with Court in that Court, his expertise is in a lot of post-production sound, and he's working on Dolby Atmos. And we weren't sure if there's anyone actually in the state of Oregon who does Dolby Atmos.
No idea. I don't know. Court, do you know the guys up here at Digital One, the sound stage in Portland? They would be the only ones I would think that could do it, but I don't know for sure whether they do.
Yeah, I think there is a house in Portland and there's a house in the Bay Area, and I don't think that there's anything in between.
Yeah.
And so I have some projects with my partners that require it, so I'm upgrading my mastering studio to do Dolby
That's
Atmos.
great.
And I just threw it out to them and said, well, okay. Around here, it's all these independent filmmakers who normally would never have access to, something like that. And, would that be of any interest? Because because Dolby Atmos has become the standard in theatrical presentation now, that if they had an Atmos mix for, their whatever they shot, that might be useful.
I think it's a value add, but I bet there's probably a learning curve here because how many things are going theatrical, how many people know what Dolby is, how many people know that you have to license it in order to actually use it and things like that. Every movie I ever made, we always had Dolby on it and it was always a benefit, but it's a little bit different now because you may not be showing your film in a theater, even at a festival these days. Now, hopefully that'll change back. But I think it's a value, and I think the sort of onus is on us, and I can totally help with this, to talk about why it's valuable and why you would want to do it as a filmmaker in terms of the quality and also the expectation of the audience that you may get in those effects. So there is a little bit of that burden of education, but I actually think it's a great thing to have, because I don't know many places that are doing that outside of LA.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was just my thought, and I threw out there because I wanted to get the feedback of, people who are actually, making films. Because if you're in this region, it's more geographically convenient than having to, take your thing up to Portland or take your thing down to San Francisco to do post.
Yeah. Yep.
And as I said before, it's like, well, whether anybody takes advantage of it or not, I'm going to have it because, we have internal projects we're using it on. But I'd be happy to make it available, other people are, find that they want to, explore that, audio space.
It's one more feather in the cap for Southern Oregon film production that we can tie in with everything that's going on with Ashland, Medford, and then our burgeoning little scene that we keep trying to nurture here in the Klamath area. So I'm excited about that. I have no idea if I tried to shoot it, how I would even record it. I would have to go through some training on that to figure out how to actually film in Dolby Atmos.
Yeah.
But you know who to talk to. You could ask Court.
Yeah, stuff on their site. Say again?
Oh, I was just saying that you know who to ask now. You could ask Court.
Yeah, we might have to do a tour over at your place sometime, Court, see how it all gels together. Give us our ideas.
Well, my master room is pretty small, so your tour would take about 45 seconds.
Well, I don't mean so much the equipment, but how the work comes in, how you deal with it, kind of gives you the feel of how you could then use it, or
so
how you would approach it, as a filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a learning curve for me, because I think I talked to Kurt maybe a year ago and said, I think I'm going to do Dolby, but it took me a year to really, get up with it to the point where I was like, okay, now I'm ready to do this expansion and drop the money and, and everything it takes to get this up. And Kurt, one thing that will make you happy, Dolby Atmos was the driver to get me off Adobe Premiere.
Oh.
Because I've been doing Adobe Premiere since 1.0 for 30 years.
Well, it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, and which I've been wrong about everything I've ever thought about, probably, it's a matter of lapel mics for the individual speakers in a scene, and then you use background to mix it in. And so, not necessarily terribly technical as far as recording.
No, your production recording doesn't change very much, but your post changes a lot in terms of the amount of audio information you can put into it and your ability to locate that stuff within the mix.
But that's your job, not my job.
To be right above or right here, and
Well, anyway.
Around you. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna beat this poor horse to death here.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, this is not.
But I want to hear what Tim has to say too here before we lose him.
I don't know that I'm any more interested. John, thanks though.
Well, and I was going to add to that, since John, you were asking for a tour of Court's place, I think maybe we could fit half the people on this call into Court's place. So. But yeah, I want to have this be an open forum and an opportunity to connect with Tim. Tim is an incredible resource. I lean on him / borderline harass him often with questions or inquiries about things. And whenever there's a film production, especially if it's a big film production, chances are Tim is involved in some way, whether it's just providing advice or research or the lottery system that the state has for state funds. Maybe that'd be a good thing to explain. So we have some filmmakers on here, Tim, is how exactly people can get additional funding for their projects.
Hang on one second, sorry. You mean in terms of the incentive program?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Or
Hey.
or should your dog answer? But I know every state is a little bit different when it comes to like tax credits and various incentives that filmmakers can pursue. So what is the structure in Oregon?
Yeah, that's actually a really good sort of topic or question, because you're right, they are very different in every state. You know, some states like Georgia and California and even New York have a tax credit system where you go there, you shoot your movie, they do an audit, and then they give you a piece of paper and they say, congratulations, you get $1 million off your Georgia state taxes. And as an outside company, you don't generally have any tax liability. So you'll have to sell that credit onto a big corporation like Delta or Coca-Cola, and they'll pay you 85 cents on the dollar. So you may get $1 million of a tax credit, but you probably will only get about $850,000 in cash. Ours is a cash rebate. So when you finish your project here, we write you a check, and you can, a lot of times you can use that in post-production as part of your cash flow, which helps a lot. For a while, we were sort of in the bottom third of the incentive programs across the state. There's 32 states and most of Canada that have various different programs, and they are all different. Ours was netting out as around 16 to 18% of what you spent here in the state. So if you spend $1 million here, you'd get somewhere between 160,000 and 180,000 back. And that's after you finish. So you come here, you shoot your movie, you know, you do an application process, and I review the budget beforehand, and then we do a contract. You shoot your movie, we do an audit, and then we give you a rebate. We recently increased both the fund itself. So the fund used to be $14 million a year. Now it's $20 million a year. And we also increased the percentages. So now we're more at 25%. So we're much more competitive with New Mexico, even Washington, because Washington just increased their tax incentives, and also Montana and Utah are probably our most competitive other states. So we get about 25%. So if you come here and you spend $10 million, you get $2.5 million back as a cash rebate. It's going to use up our money a little bit faster, but it makes us much more competitive with surrounding states, and even a little bit more competitive with Canada, which usually is somewhere between 28 and 32%, depending on the conversion rate of the dollar. These are available to smaller projects. We do have a lower spending threshold of 75,000. So for smaller projects that are locally produced, 75,000 up to $1 million, you would get 20% of your payroll back and 25% of your goods and services back. So it ends up being about 22.5% of a cash rebate, because usually it's a 50-50 split between labor and goods and services. And that smaller fund is a dedicated pot of about $1.5 million that is just for locally produced projects. The reason it has a lower end, the 75,000, it's a little bit arbitrary, I will admit, but as a tax incentive program, one of the things that is very important to us and as a state program is, number one, that it's properly insured, and number two, that people are on payroll and that they're paying taxes. Because as a tax credit program, we have to ensure that there is a tax mechanism that is coming in. 75,000 seemed to be around the place where projects were hiring payroll companies to pay their employees. Below that number, they were basically paying flat rates at 1099, and there wasn't any tax component on it. And that's a problem for us, because we always have to have a tax component so we can track that back. And also, we also found that smaller projects didn't have as much of the insurance like workman's comp that's necessary for our projects to, you know, they don't have it. I made many small projects, and I know why that is. It's just very hard for a state agency to incentivize projects that aren't necessarily paying the proper payroll taxes or the proper insurances that are required by the Bureau of Business and Labor in case we get audited. So there is that smaller fund that's available to locally produced projects from 75,000 up to $1 million, and then over $1 million, you can still access that fund. It's just for, you know, larger projects that are spending more than $1 million. Then there's a separate fund for, as I said, regional production. That adds a little bit of money if you're either basing yourself entirely outside of Portland, or you're doing a few days. If you're in Portland, you're doing a few days somewhere outside of the zone in Portland, which is 30 miles. Yeah, so all of that is usually the first step with me is you can do all of this through me. And usually the first step is I go through a budget, whatever it is, and I give you an estimate of what the tax incentives might look like. And then you can decide whether or not, you know, the requirements we have for you to get that incentive or what you want to go with. And if so, and you got your funding together, we'll do an application and then do a contract, and off you go and you shoot it. Short films and documentaries also qualify. So if you're doing something on a larger scale, both for the short films and documentaries, they do qualify, as does animation and interactive games. But again, that lower $75,000 spending threshold is got to be sort of hit before we can kick in our incentives. So that's pretty much the overall. The new percentages that we just increased go into effect on July 1. They literally were just signed into law last week. So they are brand new. We went up from 10% and 20% to 20% and 25%. So we doubled the payroll rebate, and we increased the goods and services rebate by 5%, but it nets out at about 22 to 25% overall of whatever you're spending here in Oregon.
Okay, great.
That's
So
what differentiates the projects that I've worked on. I got a pay stub as opposed to like cash or tin.
yeah, the
Exactly.
last
Yeah,
the last
exactly.
film set that I worked on, I was a drone operator and I got paid in leftover fried chicken from craft services. Not that I'm complaining about getting free fried chicken, but still.
Yeah, but Wayne, to your point, on our end, we want to see that pay stub as part of the audit, because we want to see what you've been paid here in the state and also what taxes you're paying, so we can track that as part of the tax incentive program. So that pay stub becomes a very important part of our audit, which is why we require it. So yeah, we can't really audit fried chicken, although it sounds delicious, Kurt. We can't really audit it, I'm afraid.
Well, does anyone have questions for Tim? This guy's kind of all things film and production in Oregon. Yeah, Court.
Okay, yeah, I got a question. I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot. Well, yeah, I guess I do. But here's my question. I'm the exec, so I'm out being a salesman, pitching this region as much as I can. And I'm headed down to LA to do a presentation for the Location Managers Guild to pitch the Klamath Basin. And my question is, in your opinion, what attributes would another region that they, and my example would be Astoria, because Astoria gets a tremendous amount of work, and it gets a tremendous amount of studio work. And it's like pulling teeth, for me to get a studio film up here. And I'm trying to look at what are the attributes that Astoria would have that the Klamath Basin doesn't, because geographically, for a shoot, they're pretty equivalent.
That's a great question, Court. I don't know why Astoria gets what it does. It goes all the way back. Like, the first film ever shot in Oregon was shot in Astoria in 1908. It was called The Fisherman's Bride, and it was shot here before there ever was a Hollywood. And so for some reason, Astoria has this long, weird history with the Goonies and Short Circuit and Kindergarten Cop, and they all seem to love what Astoria is. I think it's just this quintessential small town next to the water that has very working class roots, and it has the ships that are coming in and the big bridge, and it has the houses up on the hillside that overlook all of that. It kind of fits, and you can get to it. It's an hour and a half outside of Portland. It's pretty easy to get in and out of PDX.
Yeah.
Now, that said, to your point, we have had a few things go up to Astoria, but we've actually had, as I said, with this regional incentive, I've been surprised at the places people have gone. Like this movie that just went out to Enterprise, I didn't have to push them out there. They wanted mountains, they wanted snow, and they wanted to stay within Oregon because of our incentive. And they found the snow and the mountains and the Wallowas. So they went to Enterprise and they shot what they needed to shoot. It was supposed to be the Rockies on the Canadian border, I think is what they were trying to do. So it's kind of random. The big Sony film that went down to Gold Beach and Curry and Cruz County, they were basically looking for very dense forest that they could access pretty easily. And so there was a state park, or I think it might have actually been a national forest that they went into down there that they were able to control. And they went down there for 2 or 3 weeks, and they stayed in Gold Beach, and they dropped $400,000 in Gold Beach, at the Marriott, which was kind of huge. But again, I often find, and I admire you, I love the Locations Managers Guild. I think they're a very good organization. We talk to them a lot. I think it's the right place to go.
Yeah.
I always approach it as, I'm not a good salesman and I don't try to sell it because I actually think we have assets that are very, very good if we hit the right people and what they're looking for, and Klamath has those assets, with the lake, with the access from Medford Airport, with, the downtown and the period feel of the downtown, a very Western period feel of that downtown, the open ranges around there, both the high desert and the water around it. So you just have to, to me, it's about conversation and finding the right fit. And I go through that. I literally had 5 calls from projects yesterday, and 3 of them probably didn't fit, but 2 of them did. And I just had to find that thing that fit rather than give them the hard sell. For me, I don't want people to come here and have a bad experience because that burns that bridge. I want people to come here and really want to come back.
Yeah.
So making sure that it works for what they're looking for is really important. I don't know beyond probably what you are already saying about Klamath and the Klamath Basin that I could add to it, but I do think Astoria probably is an anomaly that we can't explain. Why did Stand By Me go to Brownsville? I don't know. It just looked right for them.
Well, one thing that I've been trying to sell with all my buddies back in Hollywood is diversity of landscape in Klamath. Because the one thing that I think is unique of our corner is that from where we're standing or where we're sitting right now, drive 20 minutes in different directions and you get either desert, open ag plains, mountains, thick forest, or rivers, lakes, and streams. All we're missing is beach. Astoria has beach, of course, but to have all of that within like a 15-20 minute drive for a film production, from my perspective, I think is really valuable, but I don't know from the studio perspective, you would know better, Tim, if having such a diverse spectrum of potential outdoor landscapes to shoot in is enough of an incentive to say, come to Klamath as opposed to some other area.
Again, to me, it's if you hit the right person at the right time with the right project, and look at Phoenix, Oregon. The bowling alley was key to them, and the fact that they could use that set and that was their key. They built everything off that, and so if you can find something that is I think, Kurt, that's absolutely the conversation starter. And I use that for the state of Oregon, to be honest, because you can get anything in the state of Oregon that you want whenever you want it. Whether it's snow or whether it's beach or whether it's lake. But finding that key thing that Klamath has that the project needs and then building off that, I think that's the thing that's going to get them, pregnant, so to speak.
Well, yeah, I agree. And my purpose is not so much to go down there and give a hard sell. My purpose is that I need to have more people who are in the decision-making chain be aware of Klamath.
I think starting with the location managers is very smart because those are the ones that are going to start that conversation for sure. Very smart.
Yeah. So I'm talking to them. I got to meet at DGA and a couple other things.
And I think the other thing you should mention is that we just increased our percentages because that is new, and a lot of them probably will say, "Oh, Oregon's incentives aren't that good," and you can say, "Well, we actually almost doubled them. So why don't you check it out?"
Yeah, I will. Definitely, be bringing that up. But yeah, I just think that, it just seems to be that this is a resource that needs to be brought to their attention. And I think it could be very economical for a production, as well as, providing, everything they need. We are lacking in some things I wish we had. I mean, I wish we had an equipment house down here.
And we don't have a sound stage too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like Portland has a sound stage either. We got a couple converted warehouses, but it is a problem. It is a big problem that there isn't a purpose-built sound stage outside of LA. I don't think there's anyone big enough in Seattle. We have a few small ones, but having something that's purpose-built that is a sound stage that could accommodate 3 or 4 sets at one time, I think it is something we have to address, overall, not just down there, but even up here in Portland.
It's just a question about trying to recruit. I mean, you're throwing around some big numbers, which is great, but I mean, when independent filmmakers sometimes are on shoestring budgets. So I mean, is there a way that we can find investors better that would be attracted to those kind of incentives and everything?
Well, I think actually, John, it's a good point, because I think actually one of the things Klamath could do very well are projects like Phoenix, Oregon. Like, it's a really good example of a, you know, a independent budget that celebrates an area and brings a lot of money into the area, and came there for location, for the amount of movie they were going to get for their money. So I think that is a market that is absolutely one that would find Klamath attractive. And I think Court will find those people at the Location Managers Guild too, because they're not just doing big, huge movies. They're also doing, you'll find a location manager that are doing small movies. And the good thing about location managers is they're the ones that are having conversations with the production designer and the directors about where you'll find what they're looking for. And so they are the first, you know, they're the sharp edge of the spear, you know, in terms of looking for places.
Does your office have kind of a resource list of maybe potential investors or not, or is that kind of out of your purview?
It's out of our purview because we're not recruiting investment, we're about production. But also there's just not that many people who continually invest here in Oregon. That is really only found in Los Angeles. Like, people here will invest, but usually it's a one-off, or it's because they know the filmmaker, or because they have some connection to it. They're not doing it on a repeated basis. So even the investors, I keep using Phoenix, Oregon, but it's a good example, but even the investors on Phoenix, Oregon loved it and had a great experience. They're probably not going to finance another movie. So having them on a list doesn't really do much. And the reason they did that is because of their relationship with the producer and director. And so it's very hard for us to track investors that want to do this on a regular basis here in Oregon. Most of those are companies that are coming out of LA or New York in some form.
There is an alternative. John, there is an alternative option though. So the Oregon Cultural Trust is one of the big grant programs across the state, and they have regional offices that handle different areas. So for us, it's the Klamath County Cultural Coalition, and they give out grants every year to various arts projects. So as opposed to looking for individual sponsors, an option is to submit a grant application for a film project. Now, it may only be, say, $1,000, but I think that quite a few of our filmmakers on here could probably do a lot with just $1,000. We know how to work on shoestring budgets. So some amount of cash coming in, if you only need a little bit and not looking at, $100,000 million project, there are grant options as opposed to seeking out sponsors and investors. Klamath County Cultural Coalition is our regional one, but I think Oregon Cultural Trust has different regional branch offices all throughout the state that do kind of the same similar thing. Tim, you'd know better than me on that, but we have a great relationship with KCCC.
And Jared, I think you had something to say, right?
Yes, there was one thing. I'm more of a writer than a director, and I've noticed that the Seattle International Film Festival, SIFF, they have what they call a Bigfoot Script Challenge, where they encourage writers to write scripts that are based on the Pacific Northwest. So I think at that stage, that's a very good stage to get writers, not only that are here in the Pacific Northwest, but also in other areas of the country, to adapt scripts possibly for our state, which will then, if that script is picked up or sold and the film's made, it's based here. The odds of it being shot here are much greater than if you've got a script that's based in Texas and they want to move it to Oregon because of the tax incentive. I think doing something like that in terms of a festival and encouragement of writers to write things based here might be the first step to get material that would work.
It's a great point. You start at the source. Yeah, you might as well have them source there. And SIFF does great work, and they're a big festival that does that a lot of stuff. So I agree with you. And we've before the pandemic, and hopefully soon, we've also worked with Playa out at Summer Lake, creating a writer's residency program to develop work that is set in Oregon and give people a stipend to go and do that. Right. Smaller than what SIFF is doing, but I completely agree with you. We need to invest in the entry level piece of the project and make that here before we can do anything else. A great example.
Does anyone else have questions for Tim or Jason or Bowen? You're welcome to chime in as well if you got anything that you want to talk about.
Tim, a couple, first question. You said there are 2 new Oregon film signs going up in Eugene. Is that for what movies are?
Animal House and
Ed's Coed?
I think Ed's Coed is mentioned on one, but I'm not, I can't remember the other one. I'm blanking on it, Mike. I'm sorry. But yes, we've been working with them for a year now. We've actually had the signs in Eugene with the city for almost a year now, and they only are just now saying they're going to put them up because we've been waiting for them to put them up. So they're hiring somebody to put them up. But as soon as they go up, I'll let you know.
I'm stunned that Animal House wasn't one of the very first ones to go up, but the other films I can think of would be Abraham Lincoln in Illinois was an Academy nominated film in 1940. Personal Best, Without Limits.
No, it's one of those. They're already there, but yeah, Animal House. And Mike, you probably know this, but it's not like Eugene celebrates animal. It's not like the U of O celebrates Animal House very much. So it's very hard. It's very hard to get them to pay attention. So I'm glad the city embraced Animal House in that way.
Yeah. I participated in that competition. Was it a couple of years ago? The Willamette Valley. There was like a jet setters or set jetters.
Yeah, you were doing the standby meet or the thing that took you into Springfield and Eugene, and I remember seeing that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
But yeah, we think that Eugene has great potential to have a really nice filmmaking community, and it's been great to see things develop. Klamath has their nonprofit. We have the Eugene Film Society here, but it's a volunteer-based thing, and people just shown a lack of interest, I guess, and so. Hopefully
also the stuff that's going on with Lane County filmmakers is great. I love that little collective, and the movies that are coming out of there are so much fun. I think that's great.
Yeah,
I was just up there about a week or so ago. Mike put together a really cool showcase of 8 or 9 shorts.
Yeah, at the Bijou, right? Didn't you do it at the Bijou?
The Metro.
Oh, the Metro. Sorry, I always get them confused.
The Bijou is coming back, I think.
Good.
Closed, and we were all disappointed, but there's some talk coming back. So
as you remember, we were going to bring. Remember, we were right as the pandemic was hitting. We were going to bring. What was the film we were bringing around?
The Goonies thing, right?
Yeah. Remember, we were doing the anniversary tour. We were going to bring it down there, and then everything fell apart because of the pandemic.
I have a lot of odd memories from the Bijou growing up in Eugene, but I was sad to hear that it shut down. I'm glad to hear that it might be coming back. Anyone who hasn't had a chance to chime in yet, does anyone else have a question for Tim? Yeah, Bowen, go ahead.
So is there anything that is particular about filmmaking in Oregon or Oregon filmmakers that you notice that's kind of particular or unique compared to other places that you've experienced filmmaking or been a part of the process?
Oh yeah, just about everything, actually, I have to say. And when I came here, I had shot many different locations as a producer, and I had no interest in being a film commissioner or film office anywhere. And after doing Wild here, and I was on the studio side of Wild, I was like, oh, it's very different. And now that I've been here for a while, I've realized how different it is. And I think there's all these different chapters of Oregon filmmaking that add up to this kind of ethos or this cultural thing. There was this, again, Mike, you may know about this, but there was this wonderful independent scene that was coming out of Eugene in the 60s and 70s, Drive, She Said, and 5 Easy Pieces, leading into Animal House, all coming out of Eugene, weirdly enough. There was the silent film studios that were up in Beaverton before they were ever in Hollywood. There was Paint Your Wagon, which basically took over almost all of Baker County, in 1968, and built 2 different cities and burned one to the ground. They all have this kind of DIY, slightly left of center, I just want to do good stuff kind of feel to them, and even the movies and TV series that we get here now still have that. And the crews are in the same arena. They want to work on something good. Yeah, everybody wants to make money. And yeah, of course, people want to make a living. I totally get that. But really, the overriding thing is I want to do good stuff, and I'm willing to be a PA on this one, and then I'll go and I'll DP over here, and then I'll go over here and I'll direct this documentary, and hey, what do you do? And I'll come help you. very much a, hey, why don't we do it in the barn attitude, but at a very professional level and a very high level. And it's been going on in Oregon since 1908, for more than 100 years, which you can't say about any other state. And it's kind of this really interesting cultural heritage that I don't think people really recognize or really understand as much as they should. And I see it sort of in the community all around the state. It's definitely in Bend, it's definitely in Ashland, it's in Klamath, it's in Eugene, it's in Astoria, and it's been there for a long time. And I have never seen that anywhere else. Even in Hollywood, you don't see that.
So are we kind of like the Hamptons of the Hollywood? Is that what we are? They come up here to do their little
That's
thing.
Funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe Fire Island. I don't know about the Hamptons.
Well, I must say that as a transplant from Los Angeles, I grew up in Hollywood and I was around all of that world. Moving to Eugene and then deciding to write a film and actually produce it, I realized that there were so many people here that were hungry to work in the industry, hungry to get behind the camera or either be in front of the camera and do whatever it took. And that's Lane County filmmakers. All of those individuals that are part of that are very much driven, whether good or bad, doesn't matter. It's just a matter of doing. And I must say that's very impressive. And Mike Schwab is a big part of that.
Yeah, it's funny, as I watch all the work coming out of Lane County, it's always like I'm looking at the credits and I'm looking at the people in them because everybody's switching around all the time. And that's my point, is everybody's doing a different thing, or this actor's moved over to here, but now this actress is doing the script supervising. And I just love that because it's very holistic, and I think that really creates a community and really creates better projects.
Yeah. So you'd say we're pretty underrated?
In a good way, actually. And I've always used that to our advantage. People always come back. And I was saying this earlier at court, is I don't want people to have a bad experience. I want people to come here and want to come back. And we have a lot of repeat offenders. We're unsung in terms of how easy it is to shoot here and how good it is to shoot here and how much you can get out of it. We're also unsung in the animation side. We basically lead the world in animation, and no one knows that.
I love the Oregon tourist ads, the advertisements, the animations there. They were gorgeous.
Yeah, that actually sadly was done by psyops out of LA, much to my chagrin.
Sorry.
But they were gorgeous. Travel Portland did some with House Special here that were just as good, but different. But in terms of stop motion, I'm talking about Leica and Shadow Machine. Guillermo del Toro and Jordan Peele are both in Portland right now doing stop motion and have been here for the last 2 years.
There's also a fascinating heritage aspect, kind of what you were talking about. And we've brought up the name Ed's Coed a couple times. For people who don't know, that was the very first student film ever made in history. And you would think that would be maybe USC or NYU or some college in France. It was actually University of Oregon students that made that. So the very first, and now, it's easy for someone to make a student film, but in the 1920s, it was unheard of. And so for University of Oregon students of all people to be like, let's make a movie about college life, and then, fast forward 50 years later and they make the quintessential college film in the exact same location is kind of poetic justice, right? So anyone who hasn't had a chance to talk yet, I want to make sure that we give an opportunity. Ben, we haven't heard from you, or Joyce or Lori, if you have a question or you want to chime in on something. Or not.
What's your favorite? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, hi Tim. I've met you before. It's been a few years, but there was a little short segment of I think it was the Northwest Filmmakers Festival that showed in Klamath Falls, and it's sort of artsy films. And I think somebody in the audience, not me, but somebody else was just like, "What did I even watch?" Because it was just, it was just short films that, it was like going through a tunnel and you went through a tunnel 40 times, but with just little different things changing and no narration or anything.
I actually remember that film, Laura. Yes, I remember that one very well.
Yeah, no, I remember a lot of the short films from there, and it was just interesting. But I guess, yeah, it was memorable. But I guess, different films have different, different people and stuff. And so I was just wondering if your input on if you've seen any like overall trends in like genres or storytelling within Oregon throughout your experiences.
Horror.
Horror comes in waves, I gotta say. It's a little bit down right now, but I would say right before the pandemic it was very high, and it kind of goes in waves. Laura, if there's one thing that I think people do really well here, it's kind of the outdoor drama, outdoor thriller, something that embraces the landscapes in some form, something where the landscape and the location is very much a part that is driving the story in some form. That was definitely part of a lot of the things that have been done here, and I think that's why people come here. We also, weirdly enough, Portland became this. It sort of has tapered off now, but we became this place for this quirky half-hour comedy. I totally blame Portlandia, but basically after Portlandia, there was like 5 or 6 different things that came right after them. They were like, we want to do what Portlandia did. There was Everything Sucks, there was Shrill, there was Trinkets, there was American Vandal. Like they all were coming here trying to do their little quirky half-hour comedy. So, but it is very cyclical. It does come in waves. It's not just one thing overall. But I would say the big thing is sort of the outdoor drama thriller is very much a part of what we do.
Do you think Oregon could ever host a fantasy epic?
Yes. Weirdly enough, there was one, Kurt, you may know this, or somebody else may know this. There was one that shot in the Wallowas back in the 1920s that was kind of a weird, trippy thing. But yeah, I think we could. The thing that's holding this back, and I get that question a lot, is why don't we get Marvel, or why don't we get Star Wars, or why don't we get... Most of that is because of the incentive program. We only have $20 million a year. So those things are going to go to Georgia, who's given out $900 million a year. It's because they're looking for money for most of those things. So I believe we definitely could do it. It's just a matter of, can we convince them to come here for the money we have?
Do you think there's like a good part of the landscape that we could leverage? So I'm thinking of like, just those, classic cinematic shots of New Zealand and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You think we could replicate anything like that here?
Oh, sure. I mean, Wallowas are unbelievable, and as is sort of Fort Rock and Hole in the Ground. I mean, those are just unbelievable places. Crater Lake just is worth a postcard just on its own.
I've been waiting a long time of thinking Crater Lake is just sort of like a fantasy location, just taken right out of a novel or something like that. But
I don't know if we can film in the national parks, though. Can we?
Wild did. They do let you. They won't let you out on like Blizzard Island. They can't get out there, but you can at certain times get there. They are actually open to it. It just depends on when you want to be there. They're pretty protective, as are many of the state parks as well. But you're right. It is a little tricky, John.
There's some hoops you have to jump through, and there's absolutely no drone work. So you have to use really long jibs if you want any sort of like flying shots. But to your point about horror, Tim, since you weren't on earlier, I'm very happy to say that after 2 years of trying to show it, May 14th, we're finally going to be doing a film screening of Frank and Zed here in Klamath, which was supposed to be in our 2020 Film Fest. And then Jesse couldn't show it because he had the possibility of maybe showing it at South by, and that fell through for him. So we're doing a Comic-Con here on Friday the 13th. So he's coming down to do a puppetry workshop, and then we're going to do Frank and Zed the following night, which I'm so excited people finally get to see that film, because it's horror, it's comedy, and there's nothing really quite like it. So
no, it is. I mean, the only thing that comes close to it is Meet the Feebles. Like that's the only thing I can even kind of say is even remotely like it. It's such a wonderful, unique film.
Yeah. It looked like Ben maybe wanted to say something, right?
I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm pretty new to like filmmaking in terms of like gathering crews and things like that. I guess I was curious, like, what from the audiences around Oregon, like what types of things have you seen them liking, or like what do you think that they're like? If I wanted to make something and just try and get it in as many like small theaters or little festivals in Oregon, like what types of genres, I guess, are you seeing like audiences particularly drawn to?
It depends on the festival, to be honest. Like people will go to McMinnville just to see short films because that's all they show, and they get a good audience just to see short films. Ashland has always had this kind of advocate, issue-driven kind of feel to it, whereas Bend has always kind of had an outdoor documentary kind of thing to it. They all show different stuff, but the audiences have come to sort of feel that about them. They all have a sort of thing. Klamath obviously is Oregon-made stuff, and I think they've carved out a really good market for that. I would say that people respond to uniqueness and authenticity. I mean, really, that's it. You know, something that is slightly different that they may not have seen before, or something they feel is really truthful and really moving. And that could be, as Lori said, that could be a car driving through several tunnels, or it could be something about a, you know, character that goes through a lot of different trials and tribulations. But I do find that audiences in Oregon are particularly fond of seeing new things and seeing things that make them feel something in an authentic way.
Hey, Ben, since you like comedy, you know, and you're thinking about the landscape, you know, the idea of John Candy in The Great Outdoors comes to mind.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I haven't, but I'm writing it down right now. But
you know, it's a great comedy. You know, they're like going on their vacation in a cabin and all on a lake, and it's all the hilarity, as you can imagine. John Candy and Dan Aykroyd bring.
There's also Black Sheep, one of Chris Farley's films that has the same kind of vibe. But yeah, there's definitely in Oregon a lot of backcountry cabin fever-ish equals comedy stuff that you could do for pretty cheap.
yeah, no, I don't know, I've like really liked the sceneries here outside. Like everything you said earlier is totally what I think is true too. Like filmmaking here is amazing because you've got every climate and every location you could want, like any time of the year almost. I don't know. The variance of it's really amazing. But yeah, thanks for all the information.
Yeah, agree. I guess I need to take Ben with me down to LA. Tim, going back to the shooting in the national parks, I'm just curious. I know, like I'm from LA, and when I was coming up, there was an awful lot of, we were getting a lot of, World War II reenaction, stuff in movies. And a lot of this stuff was shot at the Arboretum in LA. And I remember working on a film. I was getting about 20 or something like that. And the Arboretum said, okay, we're allowing shoots to come in here, but no more of that war stuff. We can't have people coming in here with guns and all this stuff. That's done. So I was like, okay, are there do you get these subject matter constraints on using being in Crater Lake or something like that? Like I can't shoot my porn film at Crater Lake.
Yeah, or can we blow up Crater Lake for like a big action film?
Oh, it's already been blown up. It used to be Mount Mazama.
See this?
Yeah, Cord. No, I haven't seen specific carve outs for content. No, they're not going to let you shoot a porno in Crater Lake. I'm sorry, but but there are things like Smith Rock was overshot for a while, and they basically shut it down for a summer from all shooting because there was so much commercial traffic that was going up there. It's since stabilized. Same thing happened over the pandemic on the northern Oregon coast. You could not get into Nehalem or Ecola parks to shoot anything because they were lack of staff. There's a lot of random things that come up. There was one thing, and I still can't figure it out to this day, and it still really bothers me. They have remade Peter Pan, and they basically wanted the Southern Oregon coast from about Gold Beach mid coast, so Gold Beach up to Coos Bay. That was going to be Neverland. That was going to be the face of Neverland, and Disney was coming here and doing it. And the pandemic hit, and State Park said, "Nope, we can't do it. I'm sorry." And so Disney went to Vancouver to shoot that. It wasn't because of the content; it was because State Park just couldn't figure out how to do it during the pandemic with the short staff that they had. Yeah. So I see that a lot more than I see, oh, we don't like the content. I definitely see places that are totally fine with guns or totally fine with horror. They don't really mind at all. And then I see some places that don't like shooting at all, regardless of what it is. And you have to deal with that. And some places go back and forth all the time.
Okay.
We have only a couple of minutes left, and thank you, Tim, so much for your time here. We always like to end by giving everyone, final words if they want to chime in on something. I know Joyce and Howard haven't had a chance to talk yet, so why don't we start with you two? Joyce and Howard, do you have any last thoughts before we sign off here? Or maybe we'll come back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good. Oh, we totally enjoyed this meeting, and it was nice hearing some of the details from our special guest speaker, and nice meeting him as well and getting some insights as to behind the scenes is what goes on. Because myself, as being an independent photographer, I'm not too tuned into the video and film type world. But my husband is, and he appreciated everything that was being documented on this broadcast, and we loved it. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Joyce and Howard, for joining us as always. Lori, how about you? Any final thoughts or a quick question?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate Tim for you.
Yeah, no.
I really appreciate you, Tim, for talking. I really enjoyed it. And like I mentioned about that film festival, even though that small segment was shown, probably 5 years ago by now, maybe 4 years ago, I still remember several of the shorts. So it definitely stayed with me.
Let's go with our Eugene filmmakers, Ben, Mike, and Jared. Any final thoughts or any last quick questions before we sign off?
Yeah, it'd be nice to develop a better relationship between Eugene filmmakers and Oregon Film, that's for sure. Glad we got to finally have a chance to talk, and I know a lot of people around here would love to build a connection with Oregon Film, that's for sure. So that's
You just let me know, Mike. I have been watching from afar, and I'm here to help if I can. So let me know specific ways I can help going forward. And if you want to get together separately, just let me know. As I said, I'm an admirer, and I've been watching you guys online as much as I can.
That's awesome. Also, one more question. I was just at a Heceta Head lighthouse today, and I was thinking of how cool it would be to film at a lighthouse. We have all these beautiful lighthouses. Do you know of any movies that were filmed at a lighthouse, one of the lighthouses, or
The Ring, famously, The Ring, the last lighthouse in The Ring, the American version with Naomi Watts. That lighthouse is in Oregon. I don't think it's a Heceta Head, but there's definitely that, and I can't remember. There are a couple of ones, but that's the big one that comes into my mind is The Ring. And sorry, Court, that was also Astoria. I apologize.
Well, and Mike, I will say, and Tim will attest to this, especially when I first took over as executive director, I bugged Tim for all kinds of random requests, or just curious about this or that. And Tim was always very quick and super responsive in whatever question I may have about Klamath Film and what I should be doing from the executive director side. So don't be afraid to contact this guy as a resource if you have questions or you're curious about something, because Tim and his crew were always, and again, I apologize for harassing you so much, Tim, but he was always great about getting back to me and providing, good information for me to help out with whatever. So Oregon Film is there as a resource for filmmakers. So don't feel like, this guy's off limits except on special occasions.
Oh, and you never harassed me. It's my job, and I'm happy to do it. And Lori, thank you. You're right. So yeah, Quinn ahead. That was The Ring. Thank you.
So Tim, is your email address on the Oregon Film website?
It is, but just so you have it, it's Tim, Tim, at OregonFilm.org, and I'll put it in the chat now too.
Could you spell your first name again, please?
Tim, Tim. There you go.
How often do you get down to Eugene?
You're muted, Tim.
Because I opened the chat window. I don't get down as much as I haven't been sort of anywhere in the last couple of years. And so I'm actually looking for excuses to start doing that. I think I'm going to go down. There's a couple of professors at U of O in the cinema studies program that I haven't seen for a while, and they've changed over. So I want to get down there and do that. So I try to go down to every place at least once a year, if not twice a year. And Eugene, I found myself in probably 2 or 3 times a year before the pandemic. So I'd like to get back to that if I can. I kind of love driving around the state. It's a great state.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to send you a personal invite to the opening of the film Maxi at the end of the month. So if you can make it down, it'd be great.
Oh, that was a great film.
Maxi was our best feature winner at last year's KIF.
Yeah, no, I've actually seen it. I would love to see it again. Thank you, Jared.
Oh,
That's
you've
great.
seen it? Okay. I had no idea.
It kind of traumatized me because growing up in Eugene, I recognized every square inch of where Jarrett shot that. So I was like, well, you're making my hometown look like it's meth central. Thanks, Jarrett. Not, that exists there, but there's some nice parts of Eugene too. John, any final thoughts?
No, I think I've said everything I need to say.
Okay.
But thank you so much for coming, and like I say, as kind of a newer member, it's kind of trying to get a feel for how everything works and how these things can come together. It's a little daunting. So I appreciate everything you guys do to help us kind of get up to speed.
Wait until you try and put something together, then it's really daunting.
Wayne, any final thoughts from you?
Oh, I was just wondering about the location that you're shooting from. I've been all over downtown, had an office there for 20 years.
Where we're at here?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the back theater at Retro Room Records on Washburn.
Washburn.
So it's right next to the Dutch Bros and Chicken Shack.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. If you're a vinyl collector, this is the place to go. Court, any final thoughts from you, sir?
2 quick things. Tim, thanks a lot. We've chatted a few times. It's the first time we actually got to see each other, so I thought that was cool.
I know, it's good to see your face, and I'm glad you're taking over. Let me know how I can help.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I clearly am not bugging you enough compared to what Kurt did. I gotta start doing my job. Okay. But that's basically it. And for Jared, it seems like we're both lapsed Angelinos, so I just gotta know, where are you from?
I was born in Hollywood, next to Paramount Studios on Gower.
Yeah.
And lived there for numerous years before moving to Studio City, and eventually up here to Eugene.
Cool.
Riverside, Northridge, yeah.
I know all those areas
the
very
area.
well too. I was in LA for 12 years.
Yeah. Cool.
Jason, any final thoughts from you, sir? The quiet one?
No, I just really appreciate listening to this conversation, and the more I attend, the more I hope to be part of the discussion. Right now, it's just good to kind of soak it in. But one thing I am thinking about is I'll be teaching, as long as it runs, a film course, very sort of introduction to film at the community college in winter. And one of the things I'd like to do with that course is give the students small creative projects to help them understand, very basic film techniques, things like mixing and frameworks and composition and that sort of stuff. And so as we get closer to that, I'm looking forward to sort of picking some brains for how to get that to work. And so this seemed like a good resource for that.
If I could ever make time, invent time, create time, I would love to play.
Bowen, any final thoughts from you, sir?
I just wanted to say it was a pleasure talking to you, Tim. Really insightful. This is a part of film or filmmaking that I wasn't even really super aware of. I mean, it's kind of an obvious thing, the people that helps fund the projects on a state level, but it's really nice to hear your perspective on kind of what goes into developing projects, getting things rolling, helping build Oregon up as a really authentic player in the world of filmmaking. So it was really nice hearing your insights.
Well, you got to go back to the thought that many of our great filmmakers, actors, what have you, came from rural places. They weren't all born in Los Angeles or Hollywood or whatever.
With the exception of Court and Jarrett, no one who lives in LA is actually from LA. So
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, and worldwide, you know, look at your favorite actors and favorite filmmakers and what have you. They're from all over. They just many of them ended up moving to LA.
Yes.
Yeah, and then as someone who's as of now invested in kind of spending their life entering the industry or doing whatever they can for the industry, it's nice to hear insight on just what a little bit more about the processes, because of course this is more information that is always beneficial for me to learn, especially at the beginning of this process.
Do create, and when you're ready, go there. And I've been ready to go there from what I've been told for many years. I just haven't had the opportunity. But
so as a final quick reminder, this Saturday here in this space that we're in, I'll be hosting rock music trivia from 6 to 8. Thursday, April 21st, Klamath Film is doing its Earth Day screening. Hopefully we'll make that an annual event, but we're showing several environmental films for that. So please come out at the Fayetteville Museum. And Thursday, May 12th, we'll have Taylor Morden down here, who is a Eugene-based filmmaker. We'll be doing in this same room a screening of his documentary Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s, which is a fantastic documentary, amazing soundtrack. And he's going to be hanging out for our Comic-Con. And then Saturday, May 14th, we'll be doing a screening of Frank and Zed at the Oregon Tech Auditorium. And with that, Tim, I will give you the final say tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and your wonderful insight with everything. It's always a pleasure talking to you, but any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, just please keep doing what you're doing across the board. It really is appreciated. It gives, it really is helpful to the work I do. And I also just enjoy it. So my email's in the chat, take it down. If I can help you, reach out, let me know. I would love to do it. And I really appreciate everybody having this discussion with me. It's helped a lot.
Thank you everyone for joining us. For our out of town folks, remember we do this every single month on the first Thursday from 6 to 8. And we'll always have this Zoom option in addition to meeting in person.
Yeah, and I should say it's really nice to have you guys. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Garrett.
See you guys.